A little over a year ago, I got this Corsair mouse. It's like the dark Core SE whatever mouse. Anyway, it's got really nice switches. It has LEDs, good sensitivity, a really nice bit of software that you can use to change about really whatever you want with this. It has custom attachments. It's a really cool mouse. It was also really expensive. But recently, I don't know, maybe a few months ago, the left switch has been double clicking. So every time I click once, for some reason I get another double click. But actually, it's not really every time. So sometimes I could predict it and be like, oh, if I want to open this file, my mouse is going to double click, so I should click once because it'll double click. But other times, I need to click twice because it doesn't double click. But then it ends up triple clicking and I need to rename the file or whatever. So this has been kind of inconvenient. And these switches, although they're not supposed to do this, have been. There are numerous accounts online of these switches double clicking for no reason. Anyway, it's kind of a pain, and rather than pay for a new mouse, I have these switches that I got online that I'm going to use to replace the broken switch in this mouse. So let's do that. Okay, before we go any further into this video, I want to say that this video is not exactly where I want my channel to go. I love fixing things, but I want this channel to be more of me making things and showing you how to make them. But I also want to show you guys the engineering process and how to fix things, and I also want to help people. So although this isn't where I want my channel to go, it is a video that I want to make to help you guys. But with that, let's get into the actual video and start disassembling this. Okay. So the very first thing we got to do is actually turn it on its back and uncover this little smooth piece here. You need to take that off, unfortunately, and we'll have to re-stick it later. Every time you do this, it loses some of its stickiness, but this piece back here needs to come off because that's going to expose two screws. Luckily, this is the only one that actually needs to come out, at least to my knowledge from what I've disassembled so far. Now, might not be able to see it, but these are weird screws. I'm not actually even sure what type of they are, but I don't have that type of screwdriver nonetheless, so we're going to use these little flatheads I have because they don't strip them and they allow you to unscrew them. Alright, so that's tight. Now what you got to do is you got to really press down and twist, and you see it comes out like that. Press and twist, and it comes out. Alright, so those are out now. What that allows us to do, keep these over here, right there, that allows us to actually pop this off. So, once again, we'll use this fancy tool, and you're just going to kind of pry from the outside. Takes a little bit of working, unfortunately. Alright, so there's one side. Pop it from the bottom. Alright, so that's out now. So here, this piece is exposed. Here's the back of your mouse, the actual comfortable part. Now what we can do is also take out this little bit right here. Possibly. It's not. There we go. Alright, so that'll come out. So now you got those two bits out. And you can start to see there's an LED in there, but there's also some other stuff, like the battery. So this is the tough part now, getting this out. The left click button comes out relatively easily. Should just pry up and come out. So you just pull up, pull it out. The right side is a little harder. What you actually have to do on this side is sort of pry the little bits out, and then it should snap out. It's a little harder. You don't want to break it. Takes some finessing for sure. So we're going to push on the little tabs. Almost got it.
part is certainly the most painful out of all of them. There we go. And it just pops out. This right click is definitely a lot harder. It really wants to stay in there, and you can't pull it up like this one, unfortunately. But that's out now, so we got both our left click and our right click out. And pretty soon, we'll be able to get down to that switch, which is right in there. Okay. So now we're at Phillips head, so I'm going to go get a Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, I'm back with a Phillips head, and it needs to be a smaller one, so you're really just going to take this out like that. It's going to get that one out. And there's also another one right in the middle here. Just like that. Okay. So now with both of those out, this entire piece should just come up. You kind of have to be careful prying it out. But there you go. Don't lose the screws that are in there. But now that whole piece is out. And now you can see the entire inside of the mouse. And this is going to be the really challenging part, because we actually have to disassemble this whole thing really to get to this switch right here. So that's going to be really, really exciting. But basically, what's going on in here is a few different things. Ooh, I really don't want that to come off, so there's really a few different things going on in here. You've got your LEDs in the back here, which are also going to be connected to the LEDs on the side. You've got the whole sort of power going through here, right? You've got the battery down here, and then that battery is going to connect with these wires to the different switches and everything that you've got in the mouse. You can see there's another connection down here. You've got your buttons on the left side over here with this circuit board, and then you've got your scroll wheel, your middle click right here, and then you've actually got the two switches down here. And this one right here, this is the left click one, and this is what we're going to replace. Okay, so there's a bunch of screws on this central circuit board here to get this sort of mouse click thing off, scroll wheel and everything. So we'll take those off. Unfortunately, you gotta watch out for that. There are actually magnets in here because that's how the attachments work. So I'm gonna pull that out, and you gotta be careful with these screws because they are steel screws, and if you're not super careful, they will stick to the magnets on that side. And make sure you don't lose these screws. They're very small and easy to misplace. So that is going to come out like that. So this, that. Okay. So we got those two screws, and we can actually get this circuit board out of here like that. And you can actually see there's a little LED on the end here for the scroll wheel. That's pretty cool, actually. That is now out, and there's actually a little connection down there that you have to pull out. But before we do that, let's start taking this stuff out over here. You just kind of have to pry these back a little bit, and then that will come out. So now we've got most of that out. Now I just need to take this little bit out down here. And now what we can actually do is there's a little, there's two little black tabs in there that you need to pull out. And you need to be really careful with this wire, because if you're not, you can break it. But I would recommend using just a little screwdriver to kind of pry that open down there. I recommend a flat instead of a Phillips head. It's really tough to get in there. Okay, that is now out. I'll put that next to its screws, along with this little piece right here. Okay, so now what we really want is this circuit board right here, which we're not actually going to get to until we can get all these switches out on this side. So let's see if they can. So we're going to have to unscrew this right here. That should pull that screw out potentially. Maybe. Look like it wants to come out. Alright, so to get this little button out, you just kind of pull up on it, and it's a little janky, but it does come out. The reason it's so hard to take out is not only does it have a screw going in it, but it's also got two little side cylinders here for these little bits that pop out. But this button's out now, and as you can see, here's the actual little button. It's very small, but I'm going to set this in here just so we know that one goes with that. And then I'm going to take this, take it out as well. And this one's going to be the same kind of deal. You kind of got to lift it out. It's a bit of a pain, unfortunately. Do not launch your screw, because then you have to go and find it. There it is. Okay. Alright, so now both of those are removed, which means we have a clear shot at this main circuit board to actually get that out. So it appears that there's 3 screws holding it in. We got one here, one here, and one down here. Once those are out, it should just pop out. I hope. Let's see if we can pry it out a little bit. Oh, nope. There's a 4th one. Alright, so that screw actually down there doesn't go in, but it is this one right here that needs to come out. And then you should be able to pull the entire assembly out. At least pry it out, potentially. There we go. Now that is out. Alright. So this is what we're actually trying to get at now. I'm going to put the screw back in first. But this is the assembly we need. This switch right here has to be desoldered, and then we'll resolder the new one on. So I'm going to take a moment to kind of explain what's going on here with the actual switch. So these are micro switches. Micro switches come in a really big variety. Let me get to a better shot so you can actually see this a little better. Alright, so this is a micro switch. The camera's not going to focus on it. It's really small, obviously, hence the name micro. But on the top, there's a little button, and that button clicks, and that's what actually sends a signal to the computer telling you that you left-clicked or right-clicked or whatever. Now, the way these Omron switches work is they all have sort of a different designation. So the ones originally on the mouse, and you won't be able to see the writing, but they say D2FC. That indicates that I'm pretty sure they're from China, if I'm remembering correctly. And then there's the dash F and dash K. The dash K is specifically for mice, so that's why you have to get the dash K switch for your mouse if you're going to replace this. At the end, there is a number in parentheses. It'll say like 50M or 20M or 80M or whatever. That's how many times you can press it before it fails. Now this number really isn't accurate. I had this mouse for a little over a year. It broke down a little under a year. And I really don't know how many presses that was, but I don't think it was 50 million, even with the double clicking. So that's just a rough estimate, unfortunately. You can't really go off of that, but it's important that you get the switch that matches what you have in the mouse. Alright, so now that we actually have our new switch, we can desolder this one and resolder the new one. Alright, soldering iron is heated up. Let us heat up the tabs. I'll grip it by something other than the scroll wheel. Okay, probably after an hour of desoldering, I got everything out. I had gotten the switch out, but then I couldn't get the third pin out. Finally did that after trying my one soldering iron, my other soldering iron, which actually doesn't work right now, that's a whole different problem. I tried a heat gun, I cleaned the whole board with isopropyl alcohol, and then, probably against my better judgment, I just pressed as hard as I could on the pin that was stuck in the soldering board with the soldering iron, and eventually it came out. So all of that's done, it's time to put the switch back in, and I really hope I remember which way it goes. So we're going to put it in. I'm pretty sure that this blue part does go towards the, what's it called? Towards the mouse switch. So let's solder that in now. Luckily it's a tight fit, so it's not going to come out, but we'll solder this in. And you really don't want to hold your soldering iron on here for too long because we don't want it breaking. Alright. And the goal here is to do just a little bit. You don't need too much. Just a little bit of solder. Get your soldering iron in there. And, a little bit on. Together. That took way too long. I just hope it works by the end of this. Alright. As you can see, switch is on, soldered. We're good. We can reassemble finally. Alright, let's put this bad boy back together now. So, we're gonna, first of all, actually, I'm gonna set this in there so that it actually will go in. Hopefully, anyway. This looks like it's going to be more challenging than I thought. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. So that is now in. We'll actually set this in there. Alright, that's in. So let's screw it in. Should be these 3 screws. I've definitely, in the heat of the moment, gotten a little bit of disorganization here, so that's a bit of a rip. Alright, so we'll screw this bad boy in. 3 screws. There. One back here. And then one on the side over here. Three screws are all in. Now, what we can do is go to the side buttons. The sort of more tapered, skinnier one is the one that will actually go in first. Alright, and the button presses, and then we can take this top one, put it back here. Let's screw that one in. Okay, they are both in now. Now, I'm going to put this little plastic piece in over here. Because it just goes over here. I'm not actually sure what that does, but it was there, so we'll keep it in. Okay, now we will put this back in. Like that. That piece is in. And we'll also screw in this right here. Make sure that LED goes in to the scroll wheel. That's very important that you do that. Alright, that's in. It'll secure with 2 screws. I believe that they are these little ones right here. Just I'm hoping. And do note that I am trying right now to put this in before I get that wire in, but that may not be the best way of doing this. So we'll see. I will take that back apart, plug it in first, and then show you. Alright, this wire is now connected. I did break the little tab. Luckily only half of it broke, so I was able to cram the wire in there, and then I was able to cram the actual piece in. But now we can go back to doing this. So, just like that. And the wire luckily has still stayed in there, so I have a feeling it'll stay in there anyway. And it's sort of compressed by the by itself actually anyway, and by the board. So I have a feeling it'll stay in there despite me accidentally breaking part of it. Now, screws are going to be a pain with those magnets again, so let's actually just put it in there. Alright, so we're going to screw that one in. That one is in. Screw the other one in. Also. Oh, alright. Luckily they don't go too far. But if you ever do get those stuck in there with the magnets, and you try and get them out with a screwdriver, make sure you don't puncture that battery. Puncturing that battery is probably the worst thing you could do. It would not end very well for you. But that looks to be good now. So, looks like we can throw this back on, hopefully. And we got both screws in there, so let's just put that on there. It's gonna connect. Oh, you actually have to pop in a few things before you do this, or else it's not gonna work. Gotta pop in the front side. It needs to slide under. There's actually 2 tabs in the front here, you see those. It needs to pop under them first, like that. There you go. Now you can screw this in, and it should hopefully stay in. Looks good. So it does not want to tighten all the way, but it looks okay. Alright, so that is in now. Now what we can do is get that little white piece that we had before over here, throw that in there, just like that. That's in. And we can throw the switches in. So for this, well, we'll pop the left one in first. The left one should just pop in like so. Not too difficult there, and it does click, so we know we did things correctly. Now this right one, we're gonna want to sort of pry that in again. So grab a flathead and sort of just pry it in there. You want to get the one side in the hole. You'll notice that there are 2 holes in there, and that's what these cylindrical pieces are going into. So I'd recommend getting the one side in first if possible. And just like that. No, not quite. You kind of have to pop the front in too. There's a little piece that the actual right click has that is what actually activates the switch. But you can kind of pry it in there and it'll get in. The last step is to actually get this piece on. And it can be a bit challenging. There are some things that can actually break, so just be careful when you pop that part on. But now, it should be everything except for just back a little bit now. Just got to screw these on. We should be good. Right. And those will screw in just as easily as they did in the beginning. Just make sure you get the same, either the same screwdriver, because I believe they are Torx, but they're very small and I actually don't have torque's that small. So the flathead trick does work. It does risk stripping, but if you press hard enough and you have a flathead that does fit perfectly, then you really don't risk stripping. You just have to make sure you don't tighten too much. And finally, to put this on, it's like putting stickers on a Lego set. It's really got to be perfect. It's difficult. And unfortunately, the more you do this, the less it sticks. But if you press down enough, you should be good. There we go. That is how you replace the switch on your Corsair mouse. As you can hear, it works. Scroll wheel works. These buttons do work. That one works.
I really hope you guys found this video useful. It was definitely not as easy to desolder that as I thought it would. It took a lot more time. Just make sure that you really are careful when you're desoldering, but a solder wick will make it so much easier. And definitely use like a wedge-tipped soldering iron. But with that said, I really hope this video was helpful. I hope everything was clear to watch. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. But please also consider subscribing. I really have a ton of engineering projects that I want to make. This is really just the tip of the iceberg and what I can do. So please support me by subscribing, comment any questions that you have. Thanks for watching.